I'm gonna bet that every single one of you watching has experienced one of two things after a trip. Okay. Either you went on like a family trip, a friend trip, whatever, and you came back needing a vacation from the vacation because of how stressful it was. Or you came back not talking to one of the people that you went on the trip with. How do I know this? Because it's a universal experience. It is a nearly universal experience. And I remember when I was at that point, it had happened 2 or 3 times, and I knew that something needed to change. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I am an avid solo traveler. I've been to every continent except for Antarctica solo. Well, nearly every continent, because I also haven't been to Oceania, like Australia, New Zealand, and those islands solo either. But I've been to South America, North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa, all solo. And yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the common travel things that we experience, and a lot of us just put up with it for a long time before we realize that it might be time to start solo traveling. So here are a few key signs that I noticed before I realized that it was time to start going it alone. Okay, so the first thing I mentioned at the top of this video was if you've gone on a group trip and you've come back not friends with someone. Now we all know that the logistics of planning a group trip can already be nightmarish. There are so many people who don't have the liberty of having very consistent friends who have maybe very stable income, friends who have the flexibility to travel at the drop of a hat, or their schedule is very consistent so things don't pop up randomly very often. And it usually falls on one or two people in the trip to try to wrangle everybody to choose the Airbnb, to pick the excursions. They're sending the polls in the group chat. They're like, hey, everybody, for accommodation for 5 days at this Airbnb or this hotel, this Vrbo, whatever, I need $236.27 from everyone in the group chat. And only 4 of the 6 people send it. The other 2 are like, hold on, I gotta wait for the next paycheck. The next paycheck comes, something. Y'all know. And then at the last minute, someone didn't get their vaccination, somebody forgot to get a babysitter, or somebody's babysitter backed out. It's just always a lot. Okay, so before you've even gone on the trip, somebody's annoyed, somebody's broke, somebody's partner is upset because there's something going on before they decided to leave for the trip. There's always something, and you guys haven't even gotten to the destination yet. Y'all toes aren't even in the sand. You're not even walking down the streets of Barcelona like doing the Cheetah Girl strut yet, and people are already annoyed. Then when you get on the trip, there's always something that happens where somebody gets upset. One person is a little frustrated by the local, public transportation. Somebody is upset because somebody's walking too slow. Somebody gets a little huffy. Before you know it, it's a whole big thing. And by the time y'all get home, you're not friends anymore. Or I don't know if you guys are on TikTok or seeing any of the infamous videos of women who go in groups of like 4, 5, 6 to Miami or Houston. I think Miami's like the worst, to be honest. Or, Aruba, Turks and Caicos, wherever. And one friend doesn't get let into a club, and the rest of the friends just decide to leave her and do her own thing. So now that one friend is pissed off, rightfully so. It's always a mess. It is always a mess. And I had a couple of those experiences myself where I was either put in danger by the people I was on a trip with. Like, there are certain things that I personally don't do in foreign places just because I feel like I need a lay of the land. Other people don't necessarily have that discretion, which is fine, but in some ways it makes us incompatible. you know, people don't necessarily pay as much attention to local customs. It could be modesty in a Muslim country. That's really big for me. It could be not going out late at night in neighborhoods that aren't necessarily the best. It could be a whole host of things. And I just remember getting home from a trip and feeling like I was on guard the whole time anyway, didn't even enjoy the trip. And in the back of my head, I was like, do I need people to go places? Do I actually need people? If you've gotten to that point where you've gone on a couple of group trips, it could be with family. There was one family trip, literally there were two people. We were in Thailand. There were two people screaming at each other in the middle of a mall in Phuket, Thailand. Phuket, whatever, in Thailand, about, I don't even remember what the argument was about. I just remember being in the middle of this Thai mall. Of course, it's a bunch of like European and Australian, some American tourists, and a bunch of like Thai workers. And we are the only little black people, only group of black people in this mall. And there are two people screaming at each other. I'm like, y'all. If you have ever been, it doesn't have to be in those exact situations, but if you've ever been in that situation, it might be time to solo travel. Just go it alone, okay? Another situation. For years, for literal years, especially when I was younger, I remember traveling with whoever was going on a trip. Because at the time, I had a good amount of flexibility in my schedule. Well, not even good amount of flexibility. I had a ton of flexibility in my schedule. I was making decent money for my age, so I had the money to travel, and I also had flight benefits through my family members. So it was easy for me to fly places. Like, it was relatively affordable. In addition to me having like my own tips and tricks and secrets to getting cheap flight deals that I've been using for years. And actually, just on this trip that I'm getting ready to leave for in a few days, I think I was able to save us like $400 on one of our like flight routes, but that's I guess story for a different day. And so it was really difficult to find people my age who were able to travel as often as I wanted to, and even sometimes like the places that I wanted to. So anytime somebody was going on a trip and they were like happy to have me tag along, I was like, okay, cool. I just wanted to see places. And at least at that time, my parents were not going to allow me to travel by myself. So I was hitching a ride on whatever trips people were willing to let me in on. And there were a few times where your travel buddy is not a buddy. Let's just say that. It was like them being super rude, or even just like the travel styles being different. And even when you did find someone who you are relatively compatible with in terms of travel style and budget and all those things, there's just logistics that make it really, really difficult to get everything you want out of a trip. So, for example, there was a trip that I went on and I had an amazing time, y'all. I really did have a good time. But it was 3 of us going, and each of us, like the way we were supposed to be planning the trip is each of us was going to choose a European country within like a certain region that we wanted to go to, and we would each be able to go to the country that we chose, right? I feel like that's pretty reasonable. And after people started talking about their budgets and the amount of time that they were able to take off, they were like, ooh, we can't really go to 3 countries. So my country ended up being the country that got cut, which, like, somebody's country had to get cut in that case, but of course it had to be mine, you know? I was trying to accommodate the other 2 folks who, I think between the 3 of us, I had the most travel experience. So I figured, like, okay, there will probably be more opportunities for me to go to the country that I want. So we'll go to these other 2 countries. And again, it was great, but I did leave that trip like man, I really wish I had been able to go to, I think it was Scotland. Really wish I was able to go to Scotland. I still have not gone to Scotland. Maybe I'll go this year. I'm getting off track. Yeah, so if that is also your case, where it's really, really difficult to find travel buddies, and when you do, it's it's not perfect. Maybe you want to, maybe you're someone who wants more control over your trips. You don't want as many hands in the honey pot. You don't want as many voices, as many cooks in the kitchen. How many cliches can I fit into this 10 seconds of video? Yeah, if you're just someone who wants a little more autonomy in your trip, so you've had a couple and there's been some kind of disappointment that was kind of out of your control, I would say, it might be time to start solo traveling. Let this video be the catalyst. I realized way too late that I did not have to deal with some of the challenges that I was dealing with my travel partners. And I want to make it very clear. Anytime you are with someone, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be disagreements, and that's not necessarily the worst thing. But if, is this thing still recording? Oh my God. Okay, sorry. It was recording, thank God. But anyway, back to my original point. Anytime you're traveling with someone, there's going to be challenges and whatnot, right? But that doesn't mean that you have to put up with that. And there are very, very real consequences for when you go on a trip and it doesn't work out that the way you hoped it does. Like, there might be friendships that you could still have if you hadn't gone on that trip. There could be thousands of dollars that you've spent that wouldn't have felt like a waste if that trip had gone differently. If you had gone by yourself and did all the things that you wanted to do. If you were unencumbered by the fact that you were traveling with people, or by the fact that you traveled with this person or the group of people that you went with. Like, travel is such a, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say a mirror, but it's one of those things that can show you, I'll think about it. I'll think of the word, or maybe if you know the word, feel free to comment it for me. But it's like almost a catalyst for relationship change. If you have a friendship that's perfectly normal, perfectly fine, you're perfectly happy with here in the States, and you go on a trip somewhere and you're not friends with that person, that can alter the trajectory of your life. Like, not even being hyperbolic. If there were certain people still in my life, I wonder how different my life would be if I hadn't gone on this trip and we went our separate ways. Not even like romantic, we're like, oh, I was thinking I was gonna marry this person, but just regular friends like I talk to regularly, like consistently. And then we go on this trip and like, oh, this is like irreconcilable. I cannot believe that one of us acted this way. That's insane. Or I think about all of the money that I spent to come back and be like, I hated my trip. Literally hundreds and thousands of dollars, not just on, you know, the flight and the hotel or the cruise and the excursions, but you think about, like, as Black women, if we get our hair done, then vacation braids, okay, the makeup that you spend, everyone is buying new outfits for this. Like, you get your nails and your toes done, the eyebrows, the waxing, oh my God, all the expenses for a trip that you come back and you're like, God dang. Like, there's literally one trip I went on and I'm like, I have to go back to this country, not because I had such an amazing time, but because the people that I went with, or the person that I went with, were so horrible. Or, you know what, let me be a bit nicer. the way that trip turned out was so unpleasant. Could have been by my own doing, could have been their doing, could have just been a miscommunication, right? Everyone's different. But because of who was on that trip, because of how it worked out, I feel like I didn't get to experience the place. I feel like I have a negative view of this place because of the experience that I had with the people that I went with, which isn't fair to the place or the people or the culture or the food or the location, anything. So I say all that to say this, consider this your permission slip to not continue to have bad trips. Like, it is a-okay. I talk about solo traveling so much on this channel because I feel like, one, it teaches you so much about yourself and life and independence, so many life skills that I think all of us should build. Even if you end up not loving it, I think everyone should go on at least one solo trip. And it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm from San Francisco and I'm gonna go across the world to Botswana by myself, or I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm gonna go to New Caledonia for a week by myself. It does not have to be anything like that. There are ways that you can dip your toe in. You can drive an hour or two from where you are, get a cute little Airbnb, go to a nice boutique hotel, whatever, do a little staycation in your city just to experience what it's like to solo travel before you build up to bigger, more expensive, more logistically complex locations. But man, it makes me so upset. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not against group trips. Okay. I think there are a lot of times when experiencing a place with someone that you care about, with friends that you love, that you have fun with, there are so many times when you do that and it's an amazing experience because of the people that you went with. But I also think about how many people I see, whether it's online or friends that I hear from, where they're like, this trip probably would have been better if I was by myself. And they don't feel like they have the permission slip. They don't feel like they have the ability to do it by themselves. Like, chances are you can. There's always nuance, but chances are you can. And I think everyone should. So I'm going to stop yapping. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. If you don't know, my name is Alexis. I post every single day here on YouTube. Check my track record. I think this video is video 106, and I might actually be a couple videos behind, but don't tell anybody. And I post all things travel transformation and tech sales. So I talk a lot about how tech sales has enabled me to travel as much as I do. Just had a video on unlimited PTO and how I use that to travel and what that actually means. Yeah, so feel free to subscribe. I just lost a subscriber based on that. That's crazy. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.